Miami lost. Pittsburgh lost. SMU didn't even play. Somehow they fell in the ranking. So how does the ACC championship picture now look? Let's bring in the squad.
You're talking ball with the ACC squad. From Florida State to North Carolina, from Syracuse to Miami, and from NC State to California, it's the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network bringing you scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive preview of the upcoming ACC weekend. Hang on, it could get loud, it could get heated, and it will definitely be fun. Squad up, you're part of the ACC squad.
We'll put Week 11 in the rear view. Take a look at Week 12 on the ACC football schedule. This episode of the squad is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. We've got critical games coming up this weekend with some teams fighting for bowl eligibility, some teams fighting to stay in the ACC championship picture. All right, guys, all fall on the grenade. I will buy the first round. I am Alex Dono from Locked On Canes. By the way, we got Kenton Gibbs and Grayson Boone from Locked On Wolfpack. Jackson Holzer from Locked On Syracuse. I don't know if he showered or not. We'll get into that. JJ Jackson from Locked On Blue Devils. So Miami Hurricanes, they went into Atlanta to face Georgia Tech. 8.5-point favorites by the time the number closed. Miami was looking for a 10-0 start to their season for the first time since 2017. Going up against a team with essentially a one-armed quarterback. Haynes King did return. Zero threat to throw the football whatsoever. Georgia Tech's star running back Jamal Haynes, who was banged up, only lasted a little less than a quarter. He had to sit the rest of the game, and yet Miami had no answers for Georgia Tech's running game, giving up 271 rushing yards. And Georgia Tech didn't have to throw a lot. When they did, they brought on true freshman quarterback Aaron Philo. And so every time Philo came on the field, you knew they're going to throw the football. Miami still managed to give up key plays on 3rd and 18, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 8. And, you know, the script for Miami, guys, a lot of times this year has been, because this wasn't the first time Miami's defense struggled. That's putting it mildly. But every other time, Cam Ward was armed with what Kenton Gibbs refers to as that plot armor, and he would find a way to put the team on his back. He did have an opportunity to do so with just under 2 minutes left, but instead of the usual touchdown drive, which would have been a game winner, Miami was down 5. Instead, Ward hit from behind, held on to the football too long throughout the game. If there's any criticism I have for Cam Ward, which is not a whole lot, he wasn't getting rid of the football quickly enough, wasn't finding his checkdowns in that game. So instead of a game-winning touchdown, it was a game-sealing fumble recovery for Georgia Tech. But crazy enough, guys, and I'll let whoever wants to buy the next round if you want to, Miami lost control of their own destiny for like 5 hours. And then Pittsburgh losing to Virginia, which should not have happened in Pitt. Miami right back in the driver's seat, and they control their own destiny again.
It's nasty business because I knew y'all were waiting on me because of Pitt. And everybody's now made me the resident Pitt super fan, which I am not. I'm just a fan of teams who win.
By the way, you're down really bad because not only does Pitt keep losing, Thomas Castellanos gets benched. Like, this has not been a good week.
No. It was a benching via injury. They tried on the broadcast to say it was a lower body injury. I knew as soon as it happened.
First of all, I would never be down bad about Thomas Castellanos because Bill O'Brien is exactly who I thought he was. I told everybody he's a joke. He's a clown. He mismanages talent at a rate that nobody's ever seen. And he's doing it again. He's doing it again, ladies and gentlemen.
Castellanos' numbers are better this year than they were last year.
Except for 1,000 less rushing yards. Oh, what's the value of a rushing yard, Alex Dono? I feel like you know better than anybody right now.
Plead the fifth. I do not want to answer that question.
What are we doing here? But I digress. Pitt, disappointment. Big-time disappointment. Miami gave you the keys. They gave you the keys to where if you won that game and if you beat Clemson, you're there. You're in the game. You did the thing. What does Narduzzi and crew do? Go and piss down their leg at home against UVA. Come on, dog. Come on, man. This is an all-time embarrassment. And I will say this. Miami has been dancing with the devil all year long. They've been courting disaster all year long. And to quote the great Terrence Howard in the movie Four Brothers, you knock on the devil's door long enough, somebody gonna answer. And Georgia Tech was willing to come up with that answer because Cam Ward can't hold on to the ball for 5 seconds of play against every team in the ACC. He can do it against most, but it's not going to work out every time for you. And we learned it the hard way in this one.
I do think it's interesting that literally last week we posed the question, if Miami's defense is going to remain suspect, do they have the firepower to pull themselves up by the bootstraps and still win a game? Survey says, 1 week. It took 1 week for that take to age very poorly. I can't believe that Georgia Tech was able to rush for 271 yards on the ground when you know it was coming. When you knew it was coming. Dono, I can't believe probably how disappointed you must be in that type of performance. But, man, I mean, I guess you luck out by still having control of your own destiny.
Well, and let me say this, because it was made like for the past several weeks, I had been holding out some hope that maybe Miami could change or at least tweak their defensive identity. I think 10 games in, we know that's probably not going to happen. But I will say, I still feel pretty confident in the offense bouncing back, because that was an uncharacteristic performance from the offense. They put up a ton of yards. They just couldn't finish drives. There was one, could have been a game-changing play, was an easy third down reception for Sam Brown. Cam Ward put it right in the breadbasket. He dropped it. I thought Mario Cristobal, who had been managing games very well this year up until that point, I thought rolled the dice way too much, went for 2 4th downs where they should have kicked makeable field goals. And, they left 6 points on the field. They lost the game by 5. Go figure. Away from Georgia Tech, but I thought Miami managed the game poorly. I thought the offense was a little bit uncharacteristic in how they weren't finishing drives. So if Miami's going to be this team where, the defense just needs to make a couple stops because the offense is usually going to score 40-plus points, I think the offense can bounce back, but it's become very clear to me, guys, I don't think there's any bouncing back for that defense. They are who they are.
I think you nailed it. Miami's still a really good team. Okay, they had a bad game against Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech is a very simple team. If you stop the run against Georgia Tech, you'll win. You'll beat Georgia Tech. You can stop their run game. If you can't stop the run game, look what happens. You probably lose, and that's what happened to Miami. But at the end of the day, you got to look at what's coming up. They got Wake Forest and at Syracuse to close the year. You just win those 2 games, you're in.
Yeah,
you're in. There you go, right? That's the silver lining for Miami. You get your one-off game. That was the one time you're allowed to have it. So shake it off and bounce back next week. And I expect them to. They should be able to beat Wake Forest at home, hopefully, right? I mean, we're going to agree on that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Cool. And I love my Syracuse Orange. Are they going to beat Syracuse on the road?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're 11-1.
So, yeah.
They're 11-1. Okay. All right. That's your one bad game. Miami was that team that had been playing with fire all season long against Cal and against Virginia Tech, against even Duke falling behind by a couple scores. And they got burned. That's what happened. But it's their one game they were allowed to lose. And that's it.
That's the biggest thing. There have just been so many opportunities for that first loss of the season to come up for Miami throughout the course of the year. It feels forever ago that we saw that catch at the end of the football game in the Virginia Tech game for Miami. And then you mentioned what happened with the Duke game a week ago. And so for Georgia Tech to finally put that first loss on the record for Miami, in some ways you felt like this was bound to happen. But what a silver lining it is that Pittsburgh fell asleep at the wheel at home last week to really let Miami be in a much better spot going into the back half of the back stretch of the season.
Well, JJ, if you want to, I want to let JJ take a victory lap, though, because this is a pretty sad panel outside of JJ Jackson, because Manny Diaz, Duke, they needed a win, 2-game losing streak. You guys got it done against what was an ascending NC State team at that time.
Yeah, it feels good to be back in the win column. Certainly proud of what Duke was able to do on the football field. And in some ways, I was pleased to see Malik Murphy have the game that he had and the performance that he had for this Duke team. So always good to see Duke win the Triangle area with wins this year over UNC and NC State. So it's a fun time to be a Duke football fan this year. That's for sure.
You might notice by my hat and newly hung banners here, it's basketball season in Raleigh, North Carolina. Who cares about football this season? But no, in all serious, credit to Duke's defense. They absolutely brought it. NC State's offense absolutely did not. You can stick a fork in the Wolfpack. That'll just about do it for us here in 2024.
And by the way, I know everybody wants to victory lap on Kitten when I'm wrong, because I'm a little loud sometimes. I get a little fired up sometimes. But I see that nobody's giving me credit for my SMU takes aging pretty well as well. For me believing in them and saying, hey, they might be a team that can do more than upset the apple
You
cart.
believe in everyone.
I believe in winners. I believe in winners. And
You
winners
just look at every
continue
team
to
and you're like, oh, that team's undefeated. That team's undefeated. That team has one loss. That team, I believe in all of them. And then someone's going to win the games.
I mean, hey, that's fair. But you know who I never believed in all along?
You didn't believe in my Syracuse Orange. That's
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. I never believed
You know what?
in
I didn't
California.
believe in your NC State Wolfpack. We're even.
And we are even. We are even for now, buddy. For now. I mean, hey,
For
at least
now.
my coach watches
What are you
up.
talking about for now? You guys got to still win one more game here.
Oh, wow. Here we
You got to
go.
play that 13th game.
Listen, worry about yourself. Worry about yourself and your unwashed
Listen, our coach,
That's what
we're going to get him
worry
in the
about.
shower, okay? We're going to get our coach in the shower, and we're going to be okay.
Mm-hmm. I hear you. It seemed like he's not sure about that. It seems like you're more convinced about the shower than he is. I'm just saying. We may need to get into that later.
Well, and if anyone doesn't understand why we're talking about showers, we will explain.
Quite the
We'll take
tease.
a look.
Very out of context.
Yeah, but the real ones know what we're talking about. But I'm going to let Jackson Holzer explain when we come back what we're talking about. We have games to talk about. We have rankings. I love, by the way, how Kenton is this week taking an SMU victory lap, even though they didn't even play last week. So obviously they couldn't lose. You guys want to keep it locked right here. We're only getting started on this brand new episode of The Squad. We're only getting started with FanDuel. Guys, we've been having a blast. If you've waited this long in football season to get started, it's not too late, guys. There's still plenty of college action, and get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So if you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more right on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. So if you want to hack it a little bit, place that first $5 bet on like a huge money line favorite. Then if you win, you get that $150 of bonus bets, and then you can thank us later. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you so much for making this episode of the ACC Squad your first listen and your first watch today. For your next listens, make sure you check out our other shows. Kenton Gibbs and Grayson Boone do an awesome job on Locked On Wolfpack. Basketball season now, we've been informed, so we're going to pick that up. Jackson Holzer does an awesome job on Locked On Syracuse. It's also, it's football and basketball season right now for Duke, because Duke did come off a football win. JJ Jackson has you covered there. And all right, Jackson Holzer, I'll let you fill in some of the context blanks here, but I'm on X earlier this week, and I see this quote about Syracuse head coach Fran Brown talking about how he doesn't shower after a loss. And when I read the quote first, and I'm thinking, hey, probably had a smirk on his face. Maybe the people at the presser were laughing a little bit. And then I watched the video, and he's completely sincere. Like, what is going on there?
Well, he's like the most he's like the most sincere guy around. I mean, that's the funny part about it, is that if you know him very well, that you really don't have to watch the video. And for those that don't know, Syracuse, well, for some, it's very happy for people. They want to root against my team, of course. But unfortunately for myself and Syracuse fans, they lost at Boston College. It was a one-score game. It was kind of back and forth. They couldn't stop the run. And Fran Brown, the head coach of Syracuse, he fell on the sword after the game and said, it's my fault. I got out-coached, even though it wasn't really his fault. They couldn't stop the run for you know what. That wasn't in the post-game reaction, because they have a press conference on Saturday. It was on the Monday one. And he's basically like, Yeah, after losses, I'll summarize it for you. After losses, like I don't use soap in the shower. Only winners get washed. And he's serious. He's serious about it. And I'm like, look, here's the deal. I understand when you lose games, like it's a bad look if you lose a game and you go out and you're like partying right after. It's like a terrible look, right? We can all agree on that. I'm also not expecting people to not be human, right? You can lose a sport
Well, did you see that? By the way, at a different conference, but did you see the Georgia player that was celebrating with all this?
That's terrible. Yeah. It's terrible. Like you can't like that's awful. But like I also like, I guess the point being is that as serious as he is, like this is just a PSA out there. You're allowed to be human, right? Like you're allowed to eat breakfast. You're allowed to eat lunch. You're allowed to eat dinner. And please, Fran Brown, you're allowed to shower and use soap even after losses. I really appreciate how much he cares. I really do. He cares so much. I think he hates losing more than he likes winning. But like you can shower, okay? You can use soap. It's all good. No one's going to complain about it if you're like, yeah, after a game, I get so disgusted after a loss. You know, I sit in the shower for a long time. Sometimes you think in the shower for a long time. Not use soap. Use soap. It's okay, dude. It's okay. It's okay. That's my opinion.
Now I got questions as to whether or not brother uses a wash rag. Well, that's a serious. And since we're here, we're going to get back to the football in a second. But we all got wash rag guys in here, right? Everybody's a wash rag guy in here, correct?
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, I have no hair and I still use shampoo. I don't know if I'm wasting money on shampoo.
No, you're absolutely wasting shampoo.
I don't know what you
I believe in it.
I don't shower any differently than most people. I hope.
Okay, all right. I'm glad we got a bunch of wash rag guys here. I'm super excited.
I got shampoo and I got body wash, conditioner. We're good.
I was just there's a wash rag included, right, Jackson?
What do you mean by a wash rag?
Oh no!
My God! Oh my God!
Oh no!
What are you talking about?
You put the soap in your hand directly, and you just. Hey, Syracuse is down $1 million in hygiene this week. Syracuse is down $1 million in hygiene. Ladies and gentlemen, Fran Brown, and apparently all of Syracuse, okay? Y'all have a wonderful mass communications joy. Newhouse, what a school, right? What a facility. What nobody does it better. So I need this to be distributed everywhere if y'all could be so kind. When you get in the shower, you put soap, bar soap, or body wash on a towel or a loofah. Or something and wash your body with it. You have.
Listen, he doesn't use soap, period. Can we just let him use soap, period?
I'm worried about y'all right now. I'm worried about y'all. A lot of people, Jackson.
Listen, I just want him to use soap first. We'll get to the rag later on.
I'm going to say this. Can you help him with the rag, Jackson? It doesn't sound like you have experience with it. It sounds like y'all will be two ragless brothers looking at each other. It sounds like. But that's neither here nor there.
There's a marketing play somewhere in all of this. There's a good comeback story.
I just want to warn Fran Brown of this. You could do that no washing and all that when you were at Georgia, right? Because you lost like once every other year or so. You are at Syracuse. Don't you lose your wife playing around and say, oh, this is my ritual. Okay, all right. I'm gonna tell you something, brother. That's a real tough uphill battle you climbing. It's just me. I'm an extremely sore loser too. You show me a good loser, and I'll show you a loser. But damn it, wash your behind. Wash your behind, win, loser, draw.
I don't know how we segue from that, but I'm going to try because we got games coming up this week. I'm going to try.
I have no idea how we're going to.
I have no clue. We just have to power through it. All right. So here's a big one. Really to start the ACC weekend. This is going to be 12 noon on ESPN because outside of Miami and SMU, really the only other team that has a shot at playing for an ACC championship is Clemson. But they only have one ACC game left, by the way, guys. So this is their last opportunity to stamp their claim to staying in the ACC championship hunt. And they're taking on 23rd ranked Clemson is taking on number 18 Pitt. Now, guys, a couple weeks ago, I would have said, hey, maybe Pitt can pull off the upset. But Pitt's down bad. They've lost 2 games in a row. They have really fallen out of contention for an ACC championship. Clemson is favored by 10 points on the road at Pitt. Anyone think Pitt could pull off the upset this weekend?
Not after what we saw this past weekend. I mean, you factor in the fact that Pitt's playing at home once again. I think Clemson knows how important a game like this is, given that it is their last ACC game before ending the year with the South Carolina Gamecocks. So, hard for me to have a whole lot of confidence in what Pitt would be able to do.
Very hard to pick against Dabo in a spot where there's really no mincing of words. You know what this game means for your schedule. It seems like Dabo's got a 90% win percentage when that is the case. I don't see a world where they go on the road and get shocked by Pitt, we raised our questions about potential fraud alert. Sorry, Kenton. I think they were indeed fraudulent.
Well, I'll take that, and I'll take that fraud charge on me. Hey, I'm all right. You know what I mean? I'll be okay. Like Young Thug, I'll beat those charges in no time. But here's the deal, right? I think that there is something really, really sinister about the fact that we're going to see Pitt lose 3 games back to back against teams that only one of them could we definitively say, even coming into the season, by the way, because Pitt's not great. Only one of them, or Pitt wasn't said to be great coming into the season. Only one of these teams that we think coming into the season, Pitt is going to lose this game. There's no question about it. That was to Clemson. The other 2, SMU is the new kid on the block. You think you got a shot. Virginia is Virginia. I'm sorry to the Who's. It's a basketball school. Let's be very clear about that. That's what's going on there. You lose 2 games, both of those games back to back. I'll tell you what, this senior night is not going to go well for Pitt. It is not going to go well, and I'm saddened to see that things have devolved so quickly. Their only hope here is to get a lead on Clemson, which is something they haven't done all year. They're not a fast starting team. They're a team that generally they're a second half team. They make the adjustment, they come back. The problem is Clemson is a front running team. When they get up on you, it's like Will Ferrell's dad and Kicking and Screaming. I bury you. Now's when I bury you. Now you're getting buried, and that's what's going to happen in this game.
And it can only get worse for Pitt too.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. They were 7-0, and then they lose at SMU. Okay, fine. Virginia at home. I mean, come on. That's just come on, Pitt. Even I didn't think they were going to lose that. I didn't even think they were going to. Nobody thought they were going to lose to Virginia at home. You lose to Clemson, now you're 7-3. Obviously, you're done. And then you're at Louisville next week. It doesn't get better for them
until they see Bill O'Brien. Until they see Bill O'Brien to close the season out.
I don't think Bill O'Brien's that. I think Bill O'Brien's a pretty good coach. I think he's a pretty good coach.
He's
not a good general manager. He's a good coach.
What evidence do you have of that? What evidence do you have to say, hey, this guy, this team was close to a championship, sniffed the championship with him at the
it was a while ago now, but when he took over at Penn State, I don't know if you remember, there was a lot it was not the best situation around that culture when he took over, and he steadied that ship pretty nicely.
Did they win a championship? They won the Big Ten.
He's got a pretty decent track record coaching, both college and professional. His general managing skills are what got him trouble. That was the problem. He became the general manager with the Houston Texans, made that bonehead trade, and everyone now thinks you think he's a terrible coach because of it. No, he's a terrible general manager. But as far as X's and O's and game plans, he's actually pretty good. He's actually a decent coach.
Here's the problem. Jackson. Is there not a position in all of college football now called a general manager?
He's not the general manager.
I'm saying he's so terrible. He's going to make those bad decisions.
Are there trades in college football? Are there trades?
Did we not just see?
There's no trades. There's no trade. We're good.
What a world that would be.
Transfer portaling.
I feel like I'm in bizarro world right now. We just watched their star player, their best player, the guy who's put away multiple games, even this year, be benched by this guy. He can never manage good talent. That's who Bill O'Brien is. He's always going to piss on his best talent.
What are you talking? He can never manage. You think
he can?
I didn't know that Thomas Castellanos was the greatest thing since sliced bread, but okay. Fine.
Oh my God! Again,
And he was having better
1,000-yard
passing
rusher.
numbers this year than he had last year.
Are those passing numbers? Let's look at the total yardage numbers. Is he close to where he was last year?
No, because he was a running back last year.
A running back that did so because it won them football games. I'm sorry to tell you, Jeff.
Boston College is 5-4.
The objective of football is not to have your quarterback pass. It's to have every player help you win the game in the best way that you can put them in a situation to do so. And if you tell me I'm going to tie this guy's running behind his back, I'm going to tie that arm behind his back. What the? I can't believe I'm getting into it about Bill O'Brien in the year.
It would be like telling Peyton Manning to scramble more.
Hello?
You play to win the game, as Herm Edwards once
You know what?
Okay,
we're going to agree on this. I think Bill O'Brien's a pretty good coach.
All right, but hold on. But let me interrupt you, Kenton, because while we're on the topic of Bill O'Brien, Boston College, they have an opportunity this week against SMU. Coming off a win against Syracuse. Now, SMU's got some margin for error because even if they lose one of their remaining 3 games, they're still in a driver's seat for the ACC championship game. But if they drop 2 out of 3, crazier things have happened. I'm not expecting that to happen, but does anyone think Boston College can pull off that upset this week against a well-rested SMU team coming off the bye?
I will cut a promo for Arby's if this team loses this game. If SMU loses, and anybody who knows me knows, Arby's is the bane of my existence, and I'm still convinced that it is a money laundering scheme. I very much so am. I will cut a promo for them folks live on air if SMU loses this game. That is my promise to you all.
Tell me you haven't tried the horsey sauce without telling me you haven't tried the horsey sauce.
That's going to be next week on the squad. You got to order all of that.
Oh, boy.
I hope Amazon ships to you in a few days.
Hey, don't worry. I'm not worried at all. There's an Arby's right around the corner from me, and it's always empty because nobody wants to eat that much. So I'm not going to be eating it either after SMU whoops the wheels off the Fighting Bill O'Brien.
Yeah, I think SMU's going to win too, so it's okay. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah. All right. Well, what I do want to get into on the other side is, with Miami losing last week, it changes the ACC title picture just a little bit. Here are the scenarios. What would have to happen for Clemson to get in? You want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet here on the ACC squad. Guys, I'm telling you, if you're looking for tickets to the big game, to the big concert, to the comedy show, you've got to check out the Game Time app. This is the only ticket app that we use, and there are good reasons for that. You're getting the best prices on Game Time, and the prices actually go down the closer you get to the event. I'm a procrastinator, and finally, that's a life skill of mine that pays off with the Game Time app. Guys, Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier, because Game Time Picks filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Guys, I love the game-changing features on Game Time, like the all-in pricing feature. It's going to show you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. That's especially important before concerts, so you know your angle from the stage and all that. You definitely want to check out the views from your seat. And the Game Time price guarantee, if you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time is going to credit you 110% of the difference. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege, and we'll give you $20 off your first purchase. How about that? Terms apply. Create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Back here on the ACC squad. By the way, after you make us your first listen, make sure you check out Locked On College Football. Make that your second listen. Spencer McLaughlin does a fantastic job. I know, I'm sure we've all had spots on there. Of course, he always has me on after things aren't going very well for Miami. I was just on with Spencer earlier on this week. All right, so guys, with Miami losing, it doesn't change much with Pitt going on and losing and basically eliminating themselves from ACC championship contention, but Clemson is still hanging around with their one conference loss. Now, guys, as it stands, even though Clemson is technically in front of Miami in the ACC standings because they played more conference games, Miami holds the tiebreaker because Miami's because Clemson's one conference loss is to a team that Miami has beaten, and that's Louisville. So Miami wins the tiebreaker of common opponent. SMU, by the way, has that same tiebreaker over Clemson and common opponent. So Clemson would need SMU to lose twice because they're currently unbeaten in conference, or they would need Miami to lose once, with Clemson beating Pitt this weekend. So that's the scenario. So obviously, guys, the percentages would favor SMU and Miami to get to the ACC championship game. But I will say, anytime we start talking about, oh, this team or that team needs to win out, no matter what conference you're talking about, teams aren't winning out the way that they used to. There's been a lot of shocking results in college football this year.
And then they slip up along the way, and it makes things a whole lot more chaotic. So, for Clemson, I mean, you look at Saturday's game against Pitt, this is it, because this is your last chance to control your own destiny. And then beyond that, you've got to sit around and kind of wait and watch and see what the rest of the league is able to do.
Don't all speak at once.
Oh, I was just about to say.
We're all silent here.
I'll tell you this much. This is a lot like that Michael McDonald song, This Is It, because you're absolutely right. This is the moment. You are waiting for a sign for your miracle. Look no further. This is it. This is the moment for these teams to do what they need to do. And by these teams, I mean all of them. SMU, you have your time in the spotlight to make this a two-bid conference. And let's be very, very, very clear about that. And in my opinion, there's no way that the ACC shouldn't be a two-bid conference. However, SMU has to show up and at least be extremely competitive when they lose to make this a two-bid conference. And even then, I'm not sure SMU gets the respect nationally that they deserve in that situation. So really, them winning is the only way to guarantee that this is a two-bid conference. If Miami is sitting there with two losses and one of them is to SMU, who at that point in time will be a one-loss team whose only loss to an undefeated BYU, you kind of got to have a two-bid. But with that being said, all of these teams, just do your damn job, man. Not a single one of these teams will be underdogs in any game going forward. None of the three you mentioned will be anywhere seen as, I believe, within 5 points. I don't think any of these games will be for the rest of them in terms of what Vegas thinks if they hold serve and do what they're supposed to do. So do your damn job. You are the better teams on paper. Show it on the field.
I think it's, sorry to say it, I know nobody wants to hear it, but I think it's increasingly more likely that this is going to be a one big conference.
I agree.
I think if Miami loses two games, even Miami, if they lose two games and that second loss is in the ACC title game to SMU, I'm looking at, look, we're recording this before the college football playoff rankings come out, which is ultimately really what matters. But if you look at the AP top 25, they have Miami at 9-1 overall, 9-1. And keep in mind, the AP has been showing them respect. They were fourth going into the week in the AP. They dropped them all the way to 12th. All the way to 12th. And there's a little bit of correlation between the AP and college football rankings, which, again, we're recording before those rankings come out. So I'm very curious where Miami would rank on that. But they're behind Georgia. They're behind Ole Miss. They're behind Alabama. So if Miami loses two games, they're not a lock to get in. They might not. And at that point, it's a one-bid league. That's it.
Let me ask you this. Hold on. Well, what about this scenario? So, all right, let's say SMU beats Miami in the ACC championship game and Clemson finishes 11-1, but they don't play in the ACC title game. Is there a chance that Clemson sneaks into the top 12?
Clemson has two losses.
Clemson would have to find a way to unlose the game.
Clemson's got to undo one result.
Yeah.
I was just about to say that ship is sailed. That ship is.
Yeah.
I don't know. The conference time has to get a little lucky here.
I do think it's so interesting though how we're talking about. Oh, they're 12. They're 12th in the AP rankings. Hey, quick question, Jackson. How many teams in front of Miami have two losses as well?
Alabama, Ole Miss, Georgia. They have two. Those are the only ones.
Three. That's so interesting. It's so perplexing, isn't it? How those two-loss teams, nobody's discussing by way of like, should they be in? And yet, We're talking about SMU, whose only losses would come to 2 one-loss teams. Something that, by the way, all of the 2-loss teams we just mentioned, none of them would have that distinction. Not a single damn one of them would have that distinction. And yet, somehow, we are sure that team would be worse than Jackson Dart and company.
Listen, I'm not arguing against you. I'm just trying to give you the logic of where these rankings are right now. I mean, that's how it's ranked.
Let's not call it the logic. Let's say this is the subjective belief of the committee, because those are 2 separate things. The facts of the matter, the facts of who these teams have been throughout the season. You tell me I believe in everybody, and I specifically say I believe in winners. These teams have not gone out and won at a high enough clip, but we're still saying, well, it's logic that they get in. Y'all was about to make us lose our clean rating. It's not that. It is not logic that dictates that a team that lost to Vanderbilt is one of the best 12 in the nation. That's not logic. I'm sorry to tell you. It's not. Losing used to mean something. Losing used to mean something. But like Dono always says, when you lose in the SEC, it's a bye week.
Yeah, it doesn't count. In fact, when you lose in the SEC, they're like, "Hey, that's a quality loss because you lost to an SEC."
Yeah, and if you lose to the ACC, you suck. You're
the worst thing in the world.
So Kenton, can I ask you about this team? Okay, I'm going to ask you about this team. What are you doing about Army?
What do you mean? What am I doing about Army?
They're 9-0. What are you doing about them?
If they belong in there, if they stay undefeated,
so we're gonna have two non-power 4s in there, because the rules say it's got to be one, which I think we can all agree is probably going to be Boise State.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then, are they going to take 2? Are they going to take Army as well? Because if they take Army, because if Army were to go undefeated and they take Army, I think the ACC's toast. They're
Here's
toast.
Here's the thing. I'm fine with that. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with us being a 1-bid league because a team that's undefeated and a team that lost to Oregon in a close game are the teams that got us up. I'm fine with that. I'm okay because that Jackson, that is logic. But saying, oh, hey, your team had them throwing goalposts in the river in Tennessee, didn't you? But you're still one of the best 12 teams in the nation. I believe in you. Hey, your team lost to Ole Miss, didn't they? Oh, you're one of the best 12 teams in the nation. That to me is ridiculous. Your team let a 4th and 17 get converted to lose you a game, didn't you? Though telling me that those teams are the teams that are so much better that I don't believe in anybody's divine right to goodness or greatness in college football. I believe you go out there and you earn it. And Army, if they go undefeated, for better or worse, whether we believe in them or not, they've earned it. Boise State with 1 loss, that only loss being to the team that is number 1, they've earned it. And that's all I got to say.
Well, I think we've earned it today because I thought this was a fun show. Want to thank everyone. JJ Jackson from Locked On Blue Devils. He's the only one who showered because his team won. All of our teams lost.
We don't deserve to shower with
a loofah and all. No. Yes.
Kenton Gibbs and Grayson Boone from Locked On Wolfpack. Jackson Holzer from Locked On Syracuse. Make sure you check out all of our shows. And thank you so much for making the squad your first listen and your first watch. We'll talk to you next time right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.